It's week 7 of College Football Corner with Fletch and Randy. This is the one we've been waiting for ever since the preseason when we saw that one week that all those great games. That's this week.
Yep, it is.
Yes, sir. Let's see here. Facebook and YouTube. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up on Facebook. YouTube. Give us I think you can like there as well as subscribe and ring the bell so you can stay up with everything we're doing here. We got a big show and we want to get right into it. So what better way to start than talk about what happened last week? And it was all day long.
Yeah, it was. We had a lot of, we call them upsets or whatever they want. Of course, one of the first ones that I'm going to talk about is the Alabama. Um, I've actually, I thought Alabama would probably lose a game or two this year, but I certainly didn't think it would be against Vanderbilt. Um, and there's a real concern there because ever since midway through the second quarter of the Georgia game, Alabama's defense hasn't stopped anybody. And, Vanderbilt just basically ran the ball between the tackles and just ran it right down their throat. And they run a 5-2 defense, which I don't really understand. We ran a 5-2 defense when I played football back in the 70s and into the 80s. I'm not sure that that's something that's going to go, because to me, once you break that line of scrimmage, you're into the backfield.
Yeah.
You got so so I don't know if they what they need to do, but they certainly need to do something. One, to get a little bit of pressure on the quarterback, and two, to stop the run game, or they're going to be in real trouble here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's so many people are passing, so teams. I want to say, as far as here in the last few years, I think Iowa State kind of started. That's how they started slowing down Oklahoma, was putting more DBs in and less linebackers, and therefore you're covering more of the field. But yeah, you're susceptible to the run if teams got a great running game. But so many teams aren't running the ball like they used to just 10 years ago in college football. NFL is a little bit longer, so. Then here comes Michigan last year and crammed down everybody's throat, and they pretty much didn't have a whole lot of problems most of the year because they were just a huge running team, and they threw in passes to keep you honest and stuff. So
Right.
That's a very, very good point. I certainly didn't see that one coming. My bingo card didn't have Vanderbilt on there. I don't think Nick Saban thought Vanderbilt was going to win that game, because he even said, if there's anywhere you don't feel like you're hard to play in the SEC, it's Vanderbilt. But I watched that tape and stuff, obviously, because it was on opposite the Buckeyes. And, I found out one thing interesting. That quarterback, I think it was last year, was with New Mexico State, I believe. They're the ones that upset Auburn.
Right.
And, in Auburn. So the guys had done it before, but they honestly, if I'm on that team, when that game's over and they get done ripping the goalpost down and the whole place clears out, I say, hey, we're all going to Vegas because we can't miss. Play it until it goes, because they did not have one negative play. And how many football games can you say that? They just rolled snake eyes across the board. It was an incredible game plan for them, and it worked to the charm.
Yeah, it was, we've seen, over the last several years, we've seen Alabama lose some games. And in those games, we've seen a last second touchdown. A team went for two to beat them. They had 100 yards in penalties. They had 3 touchdowns called back.
Right.
There's always been a rhyme or reason of why things didn't go their way, and it was it was an upset. This was to me was quite different. This was pretty much being dominated by. I don't want to say they were a lesser team, but certainly not as many 5-star guys and 4-star guys and everything else. So it just kind of makes you question a lot about Alabama. It'd be kind of interesting. They got South Carolina this week to see how that goes, because one guy was saying, well, I think Georgia kind of gave people a blueprint of how to go against Alabama. Well, I couldn't really agree with that, because Georgia threw the ball against them.
Right. Exactly.
Ran the ball against them. And you made a good point. Their quarterback played lights out, possibly the game of his life. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Then, go ahead.
I was gonna say there was one play where a guy broke through from Alabama's defensive line, had him dead to rights, and he just curled out to the right, and that guy lost his balance, missed him, threw a 25-yard pass. I mean,
Yeah.
every little weird thing like that, everything went. And I'm not taking anything away from Vanderbilt. You're right; they're 2 and 3 stars, maybe some 4s, where Alabama's premier talent. But it just goes to show that you have to have everything clicking on. If you don't have, if you have a lesser team, you can win games if you've got everything going right way, and your team that you're playing against perhaps doesn't, for one reason or maybe, as we've seen the last couple of weeks, Alabama is adjusting to a new offense and a new coach and all that stuff. They still got incredible talent, but it's, to say it's not Nick Saban's team is true, meaning he's not coaching it. The
Right.
coach isn't the same. It is different, and so there are holes in there, and I'm not taking anything away from Alabama at all. If they go out and lose tomorrow, then something weird's going on. I totally expect them to hold serve against South Carolina. I'm not saying they're going to blow them out 50-0, but they might. But it's just one of those things. It could be. You would hope this is a wake-up call kind of a thing. Hey, we got to get back to the basics, and stop the run. But yeah, everything Vanderbilt did last week was incredible, and they never. They led the whole game. I don't think Alabama ever had a lead in that game, and that was shocking to see. It was a touchdown on the first drive for Vanderbilt, then a pick six.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
fluke, okay, and they're going to get it back, and then it just every time Alabama answered, because they had some offense, they did.
Yeah,
they couldn't stop Vanderbilt's game plan and what they did, so they had an answer every time. And 4th and 1. That was the Holy Buckeye game play from back in Jim Tressel, Ohio State, Purdue. 4th and 1, fake it over the top, and that almost overthrew that guy, and he made an incredible catch. Incredible game, it really was. You hate to be on the wrong side of it for sure. Now Alabama, by no stretch of the imagination, is dead to rights or anything like that. I'll pop this up. We're going to pop this up here a few times. This will cover us up, but that's the only way I know to get it on the screen. This is the undefeated conference play in the top 4. And look at those teams. Texas Tech, BYU, Texas A&M, undefeated in SEC play, along with the Longhorns and LSU. No Georgia, no Alabama. Who would have thunk that at this point? And it's long. We got a long way to go. This is not deciding anything. Look at Indiana over here. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State's kind of what we thought would be there. And then you got Clemson, Miami, SMU, Virginia. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out for sure. Absolutely. And tomorrow is no exception. You mentioned, if I got it right here, I think, South Carolina, Alabama. Mm-hmm. Alabama definitely, in my opinion, doesn't want a second conference loss. It's not because they're out of it. They're certainly not going to win the conference. But if they did take a second loss against a certain team and they ran the rest of the way, I think they're an at-large for sure if they can't win the conference. And it's only because you got to be one of the top 2 teams in the conference to even play for the championship. So but all the SEC teams with one loss are going to be like that, especially I think it's this one right here. They lost last week, Tennessee.
Yeah, right.
And that was against Arkansas, correct?
Yes. Right, against Arkansas. Yep.
And that was incredible. And so here comes the bloodthirsty Gators. This would be equally as shocking, not so much from a Vanderbilt thing, but if Tennessee loses 2 in a row and they lose one of the Gators, who haven't been a great team at all, and everybody's been calling for Nagy's head, but he did win one, and so he's got to win this one to save his job. They're saying, for the most part, not that they'll fire him this week or anything, but that would be incredible if Tennessee loses this game.
Yeah, I can't see Tennessee losing this game. To be honest with you, that's
I agree.
I mean, that was a shocker against. But that game it went down to, what you would say. Oh yeah, I can see the upset here. Arkansas got the ball back and threw the long pass, and things happened, and you could kind of see it play out of why they got beat.
Right.
Unlike the Alabama game, but that's So I look for Tennessee to bounce back. They sputtered a little bit on offense, but I think Tennessee I think they'll be fine this week.
Yeah, I certainly would pick them. I think that was in Arkansas last week, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that for sure. But they, young quarterback for Tennessee, running out of bounds to end the game, throw the ball, stop the clock, do something. But what he did, and that their offense and their defense is just too good. But still, they lost that game somehow. And, I think Arkansas, I don't know how they won that with Sam Pittman, because they hadn't been doing much this year at all. And then they pulled this game out of the hat. So I don't know if too many teams were sleeping last week. And I don't mean Alabama in that one, but it's just last week was one of those ones that, man, there's not too many rank on rank. And it was all the rank on unranked that were the games that, stole the show last week. So, yeah, I think the other one, A&M, Texas A&M, undefeated in SEC play. They have looked really good since Notre Dame beat them.
Yep.
And they got a heck of a road to go, but they'll have a lot to say. And I think the last game of the SEC season, or one of the last games, is between Texas and Texas A&M. That could be the precursor to a championship game. Maybe not those two teams, but who's ever in it could be, because they're both undefeated in SEC. So they don't play each other till late. So that's incredibly interesting. This is really getting interesting. This whole 12-team thing is really, it's the matchup. So because tomorrow is I got here. Where's the Longhorns at? I know.
We're just now getting into the thick of the schedule. So I mean, where people stand right now and where they're going to stand 3 weeks from now is going to be quite different.
Yeah, October is going to be nuts, and then in November, it's every week is probably going to be something different, something changing. I mean, this game right here, most people would probably think, Texas should take care of business. It's OU that have a great team, but we both know about rivalry games. The records don't mean anything. This is, of course, the Texas State Fair. It's at Jerry's World. So don't sleep on the Sooners, and they beat Texas. That just changes the dynamic again, because now there's another team with one loss. I don't see it happening. Really, I don't, but you never know. I wouldn't be too surprised. I'd be more surprised at Vanderbilt and Alabama than this. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. I agree. I don't see OU. I see Texas really taking care of business there. The interesting thing with Texas is the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
Ewers got hurt. Manning comes in, and I thought, man, he played really well. I seen him do some things that, only a top guy is going to do, scrambling out and shuffling the ball off, via like Brett Favre, kind of thing. And
sure,
I think he's going to be pretty special. So, this quarterback thing, if Texas does sputter against OU, Ewers could be taking his money and going somewhere else, just like he did to Ohio State. But that's the most interesting part.
Be hard pressed to think that next year Ewers is going to stick around anyways. But if he isn't playing well, they may, hey, let's put Arch back in. Maybe he's not ready yet with his injury or whatever it is. And if Arch goes out and saves the game, lights him up, I mean, this is all hypothetical stuff. Then you may see where they're gonna ride Arch, so to speak. It's still incredibly hard to think about, considering what Ewers has done last year and what he looked so far before he got hurt, beating Michigan and all that. So, but man, we've seen weirder things in college football. You're one play away from being a starter. There's no doubt about it. Especially a quarterback. So, A&M last week won with a backup quarterback, and he looked great. And then I think he's going to start this week. So,
yeah,
absolutely. Let's see here. I know we got. This one's a little bit interesting. Not so much, obviously Notre Dame can't take another loss, especially because they lost to NIU. That's just not going to help them at all. So, but Stanford, we all thought they were going to get rolled by Syracuse, and they beat them. So Stanford's not an easy out. There's no doubt. So, but they're coming into Notre Dame. I would expect Notre Dame to hold serve. They seem like they've played pretty well since the NIU game. And they've only got other ones ahead of them. I think they end the season with USC at Notre Dame, I believe. So, long season left for the Notre Dame. One of the other really big games, it might be it's a little different now, but not quite as much. Ole Miss and LSU tomorrow. I mean, big names, big numbers. LSU. Ole Miss did have that loss to Kentucky. LSU's lost, I believe, to USC, and I think that's their only loss, unless I'm not thinking.
No,
clearly
it is, and the challenge here is playing at LSU. LSU, being the home team here, and honestly, this game here, I would give the edge to the home team, which is going to be LSU, just because that is such a tough place to play.
Right,
so,
right.
I give them an edge, but I mean, this should be a pretty exciting game.
I don't know why I'm thinking that. Where's that game at? That let me go back to this thing real quick. I think no, they are there. They're undefeated. Okay, I'll correct myself. You're right.
Yep.
So LSU's kind of a who's talking about them dark horse from they win this game, and depending on who they also got left, they're riding at the top.
Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
they got.
Yeah, they're. I mean, I don't think Ole Miss will go unscathed. They've already lost one. LSU, I want to say, man, they probably won't go unscathed because they lost Heisman winning quarterback and all this. But I mean, stranger things happen. So, like I said, like we've been saying all along, it's just really getting interesting. But I would take the home team in this, especially considering who the home team is and where it's at. It's a crazy place. Like most of them are, not all of them, but most of them are just nuts, especially at night, and LSU is no exception. What do we got over here? Oh, of course, Bucks and Ducks, number 2, number 3, which doesn't mean anything these days. Two teams with transfer quarterbacks, first-year guys in the system. Two teams that have, Oregon's had a couple games where they didn't quite play as good as they wanted to, but they haven't lost yet. Buckeyes haven't lost. They haven't looked bad, but they haven't really played anybody great. So This is supposed to tell us a lot about both these teams tomorrow night. It's in Eugene. That's the college they shot Animal House at, if you didn't know that. So it's been Faber College all week talking. So yeah. I'm honestly thinking Ohio State's going to win the game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because it's on the road. Not that it would be if it was a Columbus, but I think that'll keep it close. I think their defense in the end is going to be the difference. I think Oregon's quarterback play is probably a little better than Ohio State's, and I think it's just because for the most part, Will Howard, as good as he's been, he seems to struggle a bit with deep balls. So and Dylan Gabriel seems to be doing pretty decent with deep balls, but everything else is kind of even. I think we got a little bit better running game and a little bit better defense, and offensive line's playing pretty well under Chip Kelly with the new system and stuff. So I'm picking Ohio State for this. Not that I'm betting on it. It's just, why wouldn't I pick Ohio State? They're my favorite team. So,
yeah, in this game here, Oregon doesn't have a chance in this game. They really don't. And I watched them early on, and they struggled so much. Ohio State really has things going. I mean, Ohio State we've seen it a lot last year. A little bit this year, not as much. They don't always get off to the fastest start, but when it gets into the second half of the game, they take full control and dominate. And I talked about this before. The best thing they did was bringing Chip Kelly in. One of the best offensive guys in the country. Yep. And I think you brought it up last week, and I actually read the article where they were saying, now. Ohio State will line up in a formation, and you don't know what's coming because it could be 3 or 4 different things.
Yep.
And that's something that Ohio State didn't have, prior to Chip Kelly coming in.
Yep.
So, I mean, I really see Ohio State giving Oregon a lot of problems. Oregon may hang around, first half maybe, if they get really good play and they are at home, get that energy going,
right.
that could keep it closer, but I just think Ohio State is going to be too much for Oregon.
Yeah, and just like any other game, anytime there's weird plays, weird flukes, pick sixes or whatever, stuff like that can change the momentum. You never know what's going to happen. But those things aside, I agree with what you're saying. I just think Ohio State's got all around everything just a little better, for the most part, position-wise, coaching-wise, play scheme-wise. Chip Kelly it's obvious, as you mentioned last week, and it's a very noticeable difference on offense with him there. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it. I love Ryan Day, but what he's doing is something they haven't done before, and that is the formation issues that he puts out there and he's adding different, it looks the same, and it's 5 different things you gotta defend. So pretty impressive so far, and we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
I was catching a bunch of crap because, anytime Alabama loses, I catch a bunch of crap. That's just the way it is. But, I told my neighbor and, a couple other people, I said, look, they can save me a lot of aggravation, especially if Alabama's defense is going to keep playing the way they are. Let's just, save me a lot of aggravation and heartache, have Texas and Ohio State play for the championship and be done with it. because I truly believe that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, certainly there's other teams that are going to have their say in that, and as we move forward, so many things can happen, injuries and this and that.
Oh yeah,
Team really comes into its own and gels and that kind of thing. But right now, to me. Clearly the top two teams that I've seen, and I try to watch a lot. I mean,
sure.
My Saturdays go from game day to. I was up at 3 o'clock 3 o'clock in the morning last week, because the one game didn't end until like 1:30. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I try to catch as much of this as I can, and I honestly believe right now Texas and Ohio State are the two best teams in the country. And like I said, I mean, there's other teams right there. I'm not saying it's head and shoulders, but
Yeah, of course not.
they are, the top two teams. Georgia probably, going to have a say about that, and maybe a couple of other teams, but it's going to come down to what we've seen in the past. Probably those top four teams that get a bye in that first round. I believe that's the way the top four
Oh
teams.
yeah,
I mean,
the conference winners, the four
yeah,
conference winners. Yeah,
somebody may have an argument. They did last year a really good argument, but I truly believe probably the top four teams that left are probably going to be the top four teams.
yeah, and it's very very well going to be one team that I'm a little bit interested in seeing how they play tomorrow because they're traveling all the way to the West Coast to play SC, and that's Penn State. Penn State, I think, has looked better than they have in a few years. Granted, they haven't, it's Drew Aller's second year as a starter in the system. They supposedly have a much better defense. They did go to West Virginia and get a win, which was nice. West Virginia won 9 games last year. They struggled against Bowling Green before they put them away, and they haven't really had a problem since. And they put a huge number on a really bad, I think it might have been an FCS team, but here they're going to USC. And the issue with potential with this game is if Lincoln Riley can start going up down the field, can Penn State hang with them? And that's a big question. Can USC go up and down the field on this defense?
No.
We'll find out. Because if they can, I'm probably going to think USC will win a game. But if Penn State's defense plays decent or better, then I think they'll come out with a win because I don't think SC has a defense to stop them.
No, University of South Carolina has, there was a point that we said, hey, this may be the team out there, and and then the last couple of weeks, clearly proved that it is not.
Right.
There was this, I thought, man, they look really good. They knocked off who was it? LSU or whatever. They look really good. They could be the team out there out west that could do something. And then you watch them, here the last couple of weeks, and then I'm just like, no, I just don't. It's like they had their game, but it's kind of almost the same old story with Lincoln Riley. Usually, lots of offense, but I mean, I haven't even been real impressed with USC here the last couple of weeks. And
it hasn't been like it was under Caleb Williams when they were at OU, and then maybe the first year at SC, but it seems to tapered off. And then now that he's gone, another thing to talk about, SC last week, another upset, they got beat by Minnesota.
Yeah,
nobody saw that much coming either.
No, that was almost bad as Alabama getting beat by Vandy. And that's why I say that Penn State. To me, it seems like we go through this every year. Oh, Penn State, man, they're up in the top 4. They're number 3. They're number 5. They're number. And then when they meet the big boys of the Big Ten. Which, when I'm talking, the Ohio State and, last year, the last couple of years, it's been Michigan, they don't win those games.
Right.
And I still see that being the case now. But, Penn State always seems to hang around and until those big games come up, which is normally late in the year, whenever that happens. So, I'm just – I like Penn State. I would like to like them more and see them do more, but it's kind of like, hey, man, they're great, but they can't quite get over the hump.
Right.
It'll be interesting, but just maybe the travel, the fact that they got to go out there, maybe Lincoln Riley comes up with something, but I don't see them doing a whole lot against this defense.
Yeah, they're talking about some of the East teams that have gone out west haven't be able to score points. I would say, some of the West teams that come east have had the same issue. SC comes down here and loses to Michigan, loses to Minnesota. It's a long way to travel. It happens in the NFL too. Teams that go from East Coast to West Coast and vice versa usually. So it's something you have to try to adapt for with your team and get them on a good schedule and keep them feeling good game time and whatever, even though it feels like it's 3:00 in the morning when you're coming out the other way or whatever. So, or 3:00 in the middle of the night. So, being a Big Ten guy, Penn State is kind of like my, what would be maybe Auburn or a Tennessee in the SEC, where it's like, they haven't been able to do it, but yet they look really good. Tennessee might be a little bad. Maybe Ole Miss, where it seems like Ole Miss never really gets past anybody, but they always talk about, or A&M, So this will tell me something about Penn State, but at the same time, if they win and how they win, it might tell me more about SC. But if they stay undefeated, and because this is weird to think it's a Big Ten game, because SC's in the Big Ten now, it just makes the Ohio State Penn State game coming up a little more attractable if they can both get wins this week, and of course Indiana is coming up before the Michigan game, which is like a number of weeks left before that. They're still undefeated. And I think Nebraska, even though they do have a loss, but not in the Big Ten because they lost to Colorado, they are getting only lost the Illini. They do have a loss. I take that back. So
they do,
yeah. Lots of interesting things. So what else do we got here? I think it's that's there. Have I covered them all? I think I have covered them all. Yeah, I have. So yeah, wow, what a mouthful. So. Yeah, are you home all day tomorrow watching football? Is it just Saturday?
I should be home most of the day. There's a bunch of festivals and stuff going on. I know she wants to go to one or two of those things, but I'll still catch as much football as I can.
I know we our anniversary is the 20th, but we always celebrate it later because September is full of the kids' birthdays and everything else. So we're going to a place called Fig Leaf in Middletown. Give them a shout out for listening. And they're supposed to have incredible stuff to eat and stuff. So we're going to go down there in the early part of the day and get it done, come back by 4 or so. So I'll be here plenty of time to kick back and watch Ohio State and the Ducks. So which is obviously the one game I'm really looking forward to. But I'll be catching on my phone whatever's happening at the start of the day. So
right.
Getting back to this real quick, Colorado is sitting there at 2-0. I think this is that they're the TCU of this year that we always talk about. And I don't see how Texas Tech can keep it going, but maybe they'll be the TCU. They scored some decent amount of points. BYU and Iowa State. Iowa State, I would say, is my sleeper in the Big 12 to come out on top. If Kansas State isn't doing good, and if Utah doesn't get Cam Rising back and starts playing better football, I like the Cyclones because I like their coach. I think Campbell's a great coach, and they're solid, they're tough, and they beat Iowa, which is a great game for them to win. The Cyclop or whatever they call that, Cyhawk. So the SEC is going to be really interesting. The Big Ten a little, but SEC is crazy interesting because there's so many teams that are right there one away, and then the ones that are undefeated, and a lot of them are going to be playing each other. So that'll be interesting. And then getting down to the end of November, when the ones that don't play each other, who's going to make it with the tiebreakers and all that? That's going to be. You want to talk about some water cooler, people crying, complaining. That it'll be that because your team didn't even get a shot. You're not in because you didn't play. So
the third Saturday of October is Alabama and Tennessee. It's at Tennessee, so I mean, depending on what happens at South Carolina, because I mean they are most certainly going to have their hands full the following week at Tennessee. So
right.
Yeah, like you said, I mean things are going to get real interesting. I see what's coming up, but anyways, don't want to get ahead of myself, but yeah, things will get pretty interesting. And
I think Georgia and Tennessee play each other. Isn't that right? Sometime this year?
Yeah.
Okay, so and then nuts. I mean, and A&M I think is a little outlier in this that they're playing good football. So a lot of them are playing good football. So it's just it's wow. It's just
Mhm.
crazy, crazy good. There's some good teams in the Big Ten playing football. Some of them we thought we were aren't, and ones that we didn't know were are. Like Nebraska's a pretty big surprise. Illinois is a crazy surprise. Rutgers was playing great. They did lose last week. That was a tough road game, and they fought hard. I think it was like 14-7 or something. It was really a low scoring game. And and Maryland is just nowhere. They're playing tonight. Actually, I can't remember who they're playing against, but the SEC
Maryland?
has just got 3 or 4 more teams that are, legit. It's obviously at the top
Right.
is Texas, and I think Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Ole Miss. They're all there, and I would put personally Ole Miss at the bottom of that. I just don't believe in their ability to play defense as well as they need to. But
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out Saturday. But like
Yeah.
I said, LSU being at home, that's going to be a tough thing. But
Yeah.
I started to say earlier, and I didn't want to get ahead of myself. But I talked about that third week of October. Alabama and Tennessee. But in that same week, next week, you have Georgia and Texas, which that's going. That right there should be one heck of a ball game.
Oh yeah,
really looking forward to that. But like I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Sure.
Before it, but I see all that stuff coming. Like you said, everything's going to we're going to see how it plays out week by week here. So
it's not going to get. You can't say it's going to get easier for Texas standpoint. They don't want to. I mean, the Red River rivalry is what it is, but it's also an SEC game, so it's not like it's not a conference game they could care less about. Right. They want to win that game. They got to turn right around and boom. Are they going to Georgia or is it at Texas?
It's at Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge. Absolutely huge. That'll be fun. That's got to be I'm guessing a late game next week unless Fox has got it somehow, but I think it's pretty much ESPN, so it's probably going to be a late game. My kids over here.
What are they doing? ABC or something? But anyway.
Yeah, ESPN does ABC at night, and also ESPN has a second game, and also I would imagine if it's a SEC game being ESPN, it would be ABC. I can't imagine a better game than that at 7:30 at night that you can have on the schedule. No doubt about it. So, and I know we were talking, Big Ten a little bit. Oregon at some point, they come to Michigan. The SC came to Michigan. Oregon comes to Michigan. So, or maybe I think that's where they is. Or actually, I think it's out in. I think it's in. I can't remember. Or maybe I don't know. It might be Washington. But Washington. What was it? They lost against Rutgers, but then last week Michigan went to Washington and Washington beat them. That was another kind of an upset rematch of the national championship game and helmets only. It's about everybody on the field was different. So.
Right.
So coaches and everything, across the board.
Yep.
Nuts. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. The grandkids show up yet?
Oh yeah, they're here. That's what I was getting ready to go take off here. Go deal with them.
I thought I'd hear what sounded like the WWE walking in the arena when they showed up.
Yeah, pretty much.
No doubt. All right. Well, we got two. Oh, we got a chat. Oh man, I hope they're still on. Let me click that on here. What team had the toughest schedule this year, Randy? Let me show that on. And it's a Facebook user, Anonymous.
Anonymous.
So who had the toughest schedule this year?
Who had the toughest schedule this year? Oh gosh, who would I say? I mean, I think Georgia actually has a pretty tough schedule. Texas has a pretty tough schedule.
I want to say preseason, looking at it before anybody started playing games, they talked about how Florida's schedule was nuts. Like they were saying there's no way he's going to survive the season.
Right.
And it's here we go. John Austin was asking if you.
Oh, good old John, great guy.
Yeah, I would say Florida for sure. Who's got it the rest of the way? I'd have to look. Even though Florida's gauntlet is coming, but they're all now that certain teams are better than you thought they were or whatever. It is a little interesting, but I still think it feels weird to say Florida because you just don't think they're going to win very many of them. So,
yeah, they had. Talking about the harder schedule thing, and I know Georgia was, I mentioned Georgia, they were up there. You said Florida, I think they were number one, and then I believe Arkansas and South Carolina are the right up there too, and with having the toughest schedules this year. So,
wow,
And of course, that can change a little bit as we move forward because like we were talking earlier, some teams kind of come together,
Right.
kind of put it together, at the right time, which is at the end of the season. That's why a lot of teams can get away with some of those early losses. But
oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, we need to get John in there. He needs to come and be a guest for the show.
Oh, hey, yeah, we can make that happen. We can get him on here, get his face on here if he wants, just like us. We can have 3 heads going across the middle. That'd be great. I did hear an interesting thing. They were doing some bold predictions on satellite radio, and one guy said his bold prediction is that the Big 12 winner will have the conference winner will have 2 losses, and they will win 1 CFP game. So that's a bold prediction.
I don't know that it is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not. He thinks they'll be battle tested because they're all beating each other up. Depending on who that team is. I mean, Colorado can really beat anybody on any given day because of their pure. They got some crazy talented guys. Not a lot of them, but the ones they got are pretty talented. And if you sleep on them, as we've seen, like Baylor and stuff, next thing you know, you're walking out of the stadium wondering what happened to the football game you should have won.
Well,
then they went down and just killed UCF. But
yeah.
I think UCF's not the team, but anybody thought they were from a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, let's look at Georgia. They dug a hole against Alabama. I think by the end of the game, a lot of people could clearly say, even though they lost that game, that they were probably the better team.
Yep.
They could possibly, they're going to Texas. So you go to Alabama and lose. You go to Texas and lose. You still get in that top 12, and Georgia's a team that can make a lot of noise.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they could not only win the first round, they could win, the second and third round possibly too. So
Yep.
That's a team that given the scenario you were talking about with 2 losses, especially who they were to and how they happened. That's certainly a team that can make a run through the new playoff system with 12 teams.
Oh yeah, and in my mind, Big 12, I'm sure, but there's no doubt whoever comes out of the SEC as far as conference winner, but even another team and maybe a second team, if 3 get in, which is very believable, they're going to be battle tested as well. The SEC playing each other is just, crazy tough, setting them up. Those teams will be looking really good going into the CFP, wherever they're obviously the teams that don't have the conference championship, the next 4, they all get a home game. Like, can you imagine having to go into Georgia and play them on a home game for a CFP because they didn't win the conference? Which is very possible, or even Tennessee or Alabama.
Well, Georgia, Tennessee. an LSU, a Penn State. Now we're really talking about tough places to play. So, absolutely, that could be a very interesting thing. Also, I wanted to mention I actually had about 2 or 3 people bring this up to me. They clicked in to watch our podcast and they had issues with it freezing up on them and stuff. So, I wanted to make you aware of that so we can get that taken care of. Because
okay.
So
we got to look into that for sure.
Yeah.
So do you know if it's on Facebook or YouTube?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I didn't ask that question. I probably should have, but they
said,
I tried to watch it. I'm thinking it was probably on Facebook, probably. They click on, hey, went to watch it and it froze up and then it sputtered around. And so, of course they,
right.
Stop watching it. So, just something that,
I have seen it on.
I want to let everybody know out there that Fletch is the guy that runs this whole thing. So if it is screwed up, that's why Fletch's name is before Randy.
It's definitely, if you're watching something on Facebook and it's not working, look for the Fletch Entertainment Network on YouTube. I think YouTube's a lot more solid of a stable environment, just in case. But let me know. You can send us messages about where you're seeing that, because I have seen there was one week where the YouTube one or the Facebook one didn't even work, but it worked, but it's perfect on YouTube. And I'm like, what's going on there? Because we simulcast both at the same time,
right?
So they're both recording it, and it's just whether I think YouTube might be just a little better at it. You're basically talking to Google and Meta, Zuckerberg, and whomever. So, but I appreciate the knowledge, and we'll definitely look into it. and make sure we can do whatever we can to correct that, even if we have to boot us out. I like being on Facebook because I see more and more people can see us, because a lot of people don't peruse YouTube, but we'll see how it goes. So,
yep,
all righty.
Absolutely.
Good to know.
All right, well, let's get it wrapped up and get everybody going for a big weekend of college football.
Yeah, I don't know if anything could top what happened last week, but man, it's always possible, because this is a crazy year, and there is not really one team that is just rising above everybody. There's a few teams that seem to be better, but they're all beatable, so it's going to be nuts. So enjoy it all, and look for us next week right here. We like Friday nights, and we'll recap and get it all going again for the next week. And this is the best time to start watching it from here on out, because it's just interesting heading into November when they start telling us who they think the best teams are, and then we can complain about that. So
absolutely.
All righty. So Facebook, give us a like, even if it freezes on you, but let us know. YouTube, subscribe and hit the bells so you can stay up on everything we're doing here at the Fletcher Entertainment Network, especially College Football Corner. Randy and myself, we will see you guys next week.